Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Linda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I understand that the first two speakers are not yet online. So I'll try to get in contact with them so to find out if there is any challenge on their path.
Okay.
I'll get back to you shortly.
Yeah, that's fine.
Linda, while we wait for the speakers, I think it's good you start the introductory session, your screen sharing, and they will join us shortly.
Yeah.
All right, Linda, welcome back. Our first speaker will soon be here.
Yes, I was saying that it's good we give people some time. Do you understand? Like, let's give them time to come on the call. So that's what I was suggesting. So let's just give them some time to come on the call, basically.
Sure. That's good.
So while we are doing that, we could just share the screen so people get to know what they are joining.
Okay, okay. Please go ahead.
So while we are at that, right, it would be nice for you to go to the Facebook page and share the video, the live. We're already live on the Facebook page. So you just go ahead and share the live. Like, see where there is share. You can just share it on your own page or anywhere you want to share so people can actually join.
Okay. Linda, I've already done that, but one of our speakers are online. I think we should start with her, please. I wouldn't want us to keep her visiting. We have Mrs. Favor Neji online. So please, let's work with her while Chinomso comes up after her, please.
Okay, so let's start.
Please.
Yeah, hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, welcome to the third. Yeah, welcome to the third International Parenting Seminar. International Parenting Seminar is an annual seminar put together by Antoscience Consultancy. And we have answers. Before we start off, it would be nice for us to hear from the host of this annual event and get to understand the brain behind this annual event, what motivated her into starting this, and what plans she has for this seminar in the future. And it would be good to get us notified that this year's annual seminar is in partnership with Lindaspace Media. So before I go into all that details, please join me in welcoming Ijeoma Onwukeme.
Thank you, Linda. Oh, that's very nice of you. All right. She've already said my name. I am Ijeoma Antonia Onwukeme. Okay. Before I proceed, let me mention that today is my birthday. Yes. So this event, yes,
Happy birthday!
Thank you. We started in the year 2019. Something led to that. And what is it? As a practicing teacher, I saw what had been happening in the classroom. Then I felt the need to start from somewhere. Okay, I had like minds that I went to. This is what I want to do. This is how I intend to get things done. And before you know it, it's just like they have been there and they gave me the support. So we cannot talk about what we are doing today without recognizing the pioneers of what we are celebrating today. I have Nena Chukwubuikem. I have Soma Mishra from an Indian woman. And then I also had a Congolese that joined us. Several of them, I will soon share the flyers. And, you know, we came together to put up something cool. And we really talked on activating effective parenting skills, because we found out that in the classroom, be you a quality teacher or not, you cannot achieve that target without the cooperation of your parents. And then you find out
Yeah.
that most of the parents we have today, they are not prepared for the job. So there is need to start from somewhere to educate them. So what we are doing today is to achieve a feasible synergy between the parents and the teachers. And you find out that this is what we need. This is what we need to an extent to get our learners become. We are looking at looking at holistic development of our learners, and we cannot do it without the parents. So this is what we are trying looking at. I think last year we looked at emerging technologies that will ensure effective parenting. And today, looking at what is happening in our society, we decided to come up with a theme, child protection, a rewarding responsibility. So we're looking at various ways we can protect our child, be it a boy, girl, a boy child or a girl child. We need to protect these children. So let's look at that word, protection. It has diverse means, diverse ways that things can be done. And looking at it from our various perspectives, we sure have a role to play. So this is what we have come to do. Antoscience have been doing this. Our motto is that we bridge the gap. So any gap that we discover, we look for a way to bridge that gap. And that is where we discover that there is a gap existing between the parents and teachers. And this is our little way of bridging the gap. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. I've got to understand that, yeah, this whole concept was born out of your passion from what you do, and you actually, you've seen the need to go ahead and, bridge the gap, talking about child protection and all of that. So right now we have our first speaker online right now. So I want to actually introduce her, but I'm just kind of thinking, what's the best way to introduce her right now? So I'm going to let her introduce herself. And yeah, over to you, Ms. Feboneji.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to appreciate the organizers of the program. And I want to appreciate you, IJ, for inviting me to this event. I appreciate that opportunity. I'm not taking it for granted at all. My name is Favor Ibereneji. By the grace of God, I am a certified marriage mentor and relationship coach. I am equally a teacher,
Wow.
I'm an educator, educational consultant. By the grace of God, I have a school where I groom young minds. This transformational thing is actually what led me into opening a school to reform the young minds, because just like an adage says, we catch them young.
Exactly.
And yes, and being into a leadership position also led me into going into relationship matters, because for you to be great, you need people. You need people around you, and you need to have good relationship with them before you can achieve your purpose. So I really appreciate all of you. I appreciate what you're doing in this parenting, seminar. I appreciate what you're doing in your niche, because it begins from us. If you look around, just like you said, what is happening in the nation today, not just in our country, but globally, abuse is taking over if we don't do anything. So I am a child protection advocate. I advocate for child safety. I advocate for children protection, for children care. Okay, so that is all I need to tell you about myself. Other things you need to know about me, you can also check me up on my timeline. There are so much you need to know about me. So for the purpose of today's conference, the topic I will be talking about is understanding abuse. understanding abuse, how we can prevent abuse, and also how we can remedy it. You know, being in a relationship, you know, industry, relationship niche, remember that relationship is not just about marital affairs. It's not just about the husband and the wife. Relationship cuts across everyone you meet with, everyone you come in contact with in your sphere of content. So when I talk about abuse, abuse cuts across every sphere of relationship. But for the sake of this seminar, I'm going to limit the abuse I want to talk about to child abuse. So I am limiting it to child abuse. I would like to share my screen. I wouldn't know if I'm allowed to share my screen. I would like to share my screen, please. Okay, can I be permitted to share my screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Oh. Right. Okay. So sorry for the delay.
It's understandable.
Okay. Oh my God, it's taking me to too many places that I don't want to go. Sorry, please.
Okay.
Okay. It's not allowing me share my screen. It's not allowing me share my screen. I don't know what's happening.
Linda, please check from your end if you block participants from sharing
Yes, it
their
said couldn't
screen.
join call.
Please,
It's
Linda,
telling
check.
me I couldn't join call, please.
Linda, please check from your end. I know there is a feature like that that could prohibit participants from sharing. Go towards the sharing options.
Yeah, it's everyone can share. You are even sharing when you start.
Myself, right?
Okay, it's still
Yeah,
not allowing
people
me. Yeah.
can share. You were sharing your screen when you share their screen. Yeah,
Yes,
you were sharing your
I'm
screen when
trying
you
to share
started.
my
You were
slide.
just
I'm
scrolling.
trying to share my slide.
Okay, let me check
And
something. That
when I put
anyone
the
can share.
meeting ID to share the slide, it's telling me couldn't join call. Oh,
Please, Ma, I don't know if it's from the slide. If I can share my screen from my end, I think the share button is enabled. I just made
okay.
an attempt.
Okay, let me try again.
Please, Ma, June.
So sorry for the delay, please.
No problem.
I'm trying to share. Okay. So sorry, it's taking time.
Okay, no problem. So yeah. So in case you're watching, you're on to the third International Parent Seminar put together by Antoscience Consultancy. It's an annual seminar where we parents and teachers get together and parents and teachers, get together and shed more light on, pertinent issues affecting their job as teachers and their job as parents. So today is the third annual seminar. This seminar started 3 years ago, and today is the third day, and the third year, yeah. So today we are looking at the topic, child protection. So we have 4 speakers lined up for today, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. So we have our screen. So we are currently waiting for her. Once she's able to do that, we're going to resume.
Okay, I think you're here now.
Okay. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, sorry for the delay, please. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Like I was saying, I want to limit the topic to child abuse, understanding abuse. Okay, like we know very well that in this era, just like you said, childhood is actually seen as a period that children's emotional and biological development is dependent on adults, we as parents. So in this era now, where we have child abuse everywhere in our families, at a workplace, in the school, is very high now. So we as children caregivers, we really need to work on safety and protection of their fundamental rights. And it must be something that is of utmost importance to everyone, both parents, both guardians, both caregivers. It's something that we have to take serious. So in today's teaching, I'm going to be teaching. I just pray I will work towards the 20 minutes I'm given. The objective, what we'll be looking at is we'll look at what child abuse is, we'll look at the types of child abuse, how we can prevent it, and the children that are already abused, how can we remedy this situation? How can we remedy this situation? So if you can see my screen, you can also, read up, like I said, childhood is a period of biological and emotional dependence. And these children are dependent on adults around them. So it's expected that a friendly environment, an enabling environment is provided for these children. Because if you look at what is happening in the media and globally in the area of child welfare, children have become very vulnerable in our society, in our families. And any form of abuse, anyhow we will see it, is quite harmful to a child. Now, what is this abuse that we talk about? From my screen, I talked about child abuse being any form of treatment. We can also say it is maltreatment. So any form of treatment that is meted to a child, whether in form of physical, whether in form of emotional or sexual or neglect. This is the aspect of abuse that we don't even see it as abuse. When we neglect children or when we exploit them, and we cause them harm, any harm to their health, any harm to their survival, or to their developmental milestone. As an educator, we have developmental milestones in children. So if there is any form of treatment that we impede the development of that child, abuse is there. So whether it is physical, whether it is emotional, whether it is neglect, whether it is exploitation, whether it is affecting the child's milestone development. What do I mean by that? You know, every age has their appropriate development. When a child gets to 2, there is age appropriate activities that that child is supposed to be doing. So when that child gets to 2 and the child is not able to do some of those things out of an e-treatment that is meted out to that child and is affecting or has affected the developmental milestone of that child, then we can say that that child has been abused or is experiencing abuse. Now let's look at, you know, other forms or types of abuse. I just pray I meet 20 minutes because the time is very short. The first abuse I want to talk about, I came up with an acronym on abuse and I call it PENS. PENS. So we have the P, which represent the physical abuse, and we have the E, which represent the emotional abuse, and we have the N, which signifies neglect, and we have the X, which is the sexual abuse. Now, what is this physical abuse? You know, physical abuse is the abuse that is very inevitable. Everybody sees it. If you look at the pictures I put on the screen here, it is an abuse that is easily identified, even among adults. You know, when a woman is undergoing abuse in the home, we call it domestic violence. This physical abuse is the first abuse that is seen. Why? Because you will see obvious injuries, bruises, you know, cuts, burns, fractures. You can see a child's hair is being dragged. So any action that causes pain, deliberate pain to a child, or that causes hurt or discomfort to that child is a physical abuse. When you hit a child or you slap a child, you know, these are types of abuse that even some of us parents, we don't even get to see it as abuse. You see an adult hitting a child on the cheek out of slap, you are abusing that child. Or you are pulling a child's hair or a child's ears, or you are pinching the child, or you even tie the child's hands and legs. I see it happen, especially in the school environment, or throwing things at the child. You know, some mothers they find it difficult to hold their emotions in check. You see a child gets you irritated, and anything close to you, you carry it and throw at the child. That is abuse. It's abuse. Or you fling a child down. You know, some persons, they shake the children or they hit their head against the wall. I've actually seen a mother. I went into a school and I saw a mother hitting her child. Oh my God, I was so angry in my spirit. And the truth is that that woman, I told her that, why are you beating this child like this? Do you really, you know, did you really appreciate what it means to have a child? Some people are not even good to be called parents. But, you know, we do these things just because of the way we are also brought up. I'm telling you, many of these things are because of the way we as parents, we are brought up, and we extend that to our generations. So any type of abuse that inflicts pain on children or make a child assume uncomfortable position is actually a physical abuse. I'm telling you, it's a physical abuse. Or you use anything, you know, burning, or it could be, you know, you're forcing something into a child out of his or her will, and as a result of that, you inflict pain. Some people even go to the extent of putting pepper on the child's genitals. I've seen it happen. You see, a father gets angry or a mother gets angry over a child's, you know, misbehavior, and the next thing is you see pepper or anything that causes hurt being put in a child's genital. That is physical abuse. Serious one. Okay, so another abuse that is very common that we don't even notice. This one is very invisible, and a whole lot of people are involved in it. Both the parents, both the teachers, caregivers, everyone that is a stakeholder in the life of a child abuse children emotionally. It's non-physical, and it affects the psychological well-being of a child. For instance, you know, we use bad words on the children, maybe derogatory remarks, it could be name calling, ridiculing a child, even teasing a child. intimidating a child or pressuring a child to go against his will. You can see what is happening on this picture. Look at, I assume that the first picture I put there is a teacher. Now or it could be the mother. This is a mother giving a sum to a child. Maybe the child is not getting it, and the next thing the woman is yelling. It's possible he's calling names. He's calling names to that child. You can see the child is even covering the ear because it's really irritating to that child. You know, when you belittle a child about their inability to meet expectations, truthfully is that you are really abusing that child emotionally, denying children their worth, you know, denying them their rights as human beings. It could be that you make a child feel less of himself or herself. You know, I'm trying to look for a word to really explain this. When you make a child feel less of himself or herself, when you make a child's self-worth to be reduced by the attitude, by the kind of words, you know, you are rubbing it in the face of the child that he or she is no good. It's not meeting your expectation. You're shaming the child's disability. It could be a reading disability. It could be a handwriting disability. It could be one form of disability or the other. The child is not meeting up to your expectation. And you are using words, derogatory words. You know, you are also showing favoritism. You're affecting that child's emotions. You're affecting that child's, you know, mental well-being. You're frequently yelling, threatening. You know, you come to a family, you see a mother, you know, what you could just quietly say, can you remove this thing? The next thing is, if you don't remove this thing, I will deal with you. You know, I see that often among, you know, mothers using threatening words or bullying. You'll be surprised. Parents bully their children. It's emotional abuse. It's emotional abuse. Okay, so let's get quickly to another type of abuse I named here neglect. You know, this one is very common, but sometimes we don't even see it as abuse. You know, when we persistently deny children of appropriate care, when we persistently, you know, not meet up with the basic needs of the children, their psychological needs, their emotional needs, you know, their maybe a caregiver or a parent failing to provide adequate food. It could be adequate shelter, it could be adequate clothing, or failing to protect children from physical harm or danger. Or another way I could put it is, you know, not being able to give the children the appropriate medical care or treatment because of time. I see people, especially mothers, the working parents, they don't have time to take care of the children. A child is sick and you are running late at work. You hand over your child to a caregiver because you are running late. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I should go ahead.
Yes, please.
Okay, so like you're running late to work and you have your child that is, you know, that needs medical attention. You hand over your child to a caregiver without even minding whatever happens because you prefer your job, you don't want to lose your job. It's neglect. And this is part of abuse that we don't regard. You know, when we don't respond to a child's basic emotional needs, we also need to understand here that, you know, children experience this type of abuse and it affects their mental growth. It makes them go to their shell. It affects their self-worth. A child is not properly groomed. You see the child's hair, especially we that are in the education sector. You see children, we get to see children that are neglected by the way they look. Sometimes there is no appropriate breakfast given to the child just because you're running late for work. You hand over your child's care to a caregiver, to a nanny, without even following up, without proper supervision, non-involvement. It is an abuse. It's a serious abuse. I'm telling you. You know. Now, another way we also use to find out this kind of abuse, because some persons wonder, oh, how will I know that my child is being neglected? I'm abusing my child in form of neglect. You know, so you see a parent. A parent is looking so beautiful, properly dressed. Now take a look at their children. Are the children looking as good as their parents? A woman can go all the way out to get something and look good. Do you do that for the children? You don't care for the children? It's neglect, and I see it as an abuse. Okay, another type of abuse, which I termed as the last one, which is even prevalent right now, is sexual abuse. In fact, if you give me the whole day, I will not be able to finish talking about sexual abuse, because I go to schools and I interact with children. I teach sexual education, and the kind of reports you see children, the kind of stories they tell you, you see them confide in you, the kind of things you hear, you cry. You know that this generation is going to something else. If we don't come to the rescue of these children, oh my God, I don't know what the generation will look like. You know, so this sexual abuse, it can be contact, it can be non-contact. You know, when I talk about contact sexual abuse, this one is the one that is very, it's very common. We know it. We teach children by private parts. And no one touches your private parts. Don't touch. You shout, all this stuff. This is contact sexual activities. But you see, sexual abuse has gone beyond contact. Touching, hugging, you know, kissing, fondling a child's genital in an unpleasant way, even smacking a child on the buttocks is sexual abuse. Or vaginal penetration, all this abuse, we are very familiar with this, and it happens within an environment. But the most common one now is the non-contact. You know, this one, we don't even see it as an abuse. When you deliberately walk into a child's room when a child is changing clothes, or I see a grown-up adult walking into a bathroom when a child is taking birth, you know, all these things are actually age appropriate.
Open the water.
Okay, I hope I'm not interrupted.
No, please. Is someone actually? I've actually muted the person. Don't know. Continue.
Okay, good. You know, we walk into, especially when these children have grown to a particular age, you see an adult walking into a child's room without permission while the child is changing, or while the child is using the bathroom, or telling the child jokes with sexual overtones. Or it could be that, you know, the child is being teased about his or her body development, or exposing a child to sexual images. These are non-contact sexual activities. Or taking pictures of the child while the child is naked, or while the child is changing, or while the child is taking bath. It could also be, you know, when an adult is engaging in erotic discussion with a child, even tickling, anything that will arouse a child, you know, that we call sexual arousal. It could be tickling the child, or making the child watch you as an adult when you are changing clothes, or even when you're baby. It's an abuse. You're abusing that child, but it's a non-contact abuse. You're abusing the child sexually, because when you continue to do this, you know, you are creating an image in the mind of that child that the child will grow with. And before you know it, the child gets involved in sexual activities. Another form of non-contact sexual activities, sorry, I didn't put it here, but it just came to my mind now, is, you know, when we encourage children, you know, we expose genitals to the child. An adult, you're exposing your genitals. Say, is a little child, it doesn't matter, it's my son, it's my daughter, and you don't see it as anything. It's an abuse. It's a non-contact abuse, non-contact sexual abuse. And this abuse, there are signs, you know, sometimes we don't even get to understand them, but there are signs. Like I said earlier, physical abuse is very obvious because you see it on the child's body, but emotional abuse is not seen. There are signs. When you see it, you know that, oh, this child is being abused emotionally, or has been in an emotional abuse environment. For instance, when that child loses concentration, I don't know how I can be sharing the screen and be showing myself, because I want to be showing myself while I'm talking. I don't know if it's possible to do that. So when that child, like the emotional abuse, when that child is,
You need to start your video. Your video is off.
my picture is up.
Just put on your video. We can see your screen.
Okay. Okay, it's okay. It's not, oh, it's not giving me what I want.
Really?
Okay, it's not giving me what I want, but let me go on. Like I was saying, the emotional abuse is very inevitable. I don't know if you are seeing me. Can you see me?
We can't see you, but we're hearing you, and that is what matters.
Oh my
We can
God,
hear you, and we can see your screen, and that is what matters.
Okay. I
Yeah,
was trying
that's
to
what
see
matters.
if there is anywhere I can show myself to and explain, because you know we have different types of learners, educators. There are learners that they need to see your face, visual learners. When they see your face and you're explaining, the understanding, you know, sinks deeper.
Oh.
Okay, but however, let me just try. Okay,
Please,
so
can I say something, ma'am?
okay.
Please, when you tap the screen of your device, it brings up some options below, right? I don't know,
Yes.
mine is showing me mute, start video, share, and participants. Can you see something like that?
Okay, let me try.
Then tap on that start video. We should be able to see you.
Okay, what I'm seeing here is annotation, share, audio, stop share. That's what
Below
is showing on my own.
below it is not showing any other thing.
No, it's not showing me any other
Oh,
thing.
really? Mine is showing.
Okay, I think it's from the type of phone.
Okay.
The only
Let's
thing that's
continue
showing me
then.
is annotation. Okay. So like the emotional abuse, I said, the sign, you know, what makes us know that this child is actually undergoing emotional abuse is when the child, you know, loses concentration, especially in a school setting, or you see that child, you know, saying threatening words. The child is becoming very aggressive. The child is always brooding, is always, you know, putting on a long face, is always indifferent. It's a sign that this child is actually undergoing emotional abuse. Then when it has to do with sexual abuse, we also try as much as possible to watch out for signs that we help us, you know, come to the rescue of these children on time. Like when you watch a child that you know very well suddenly begins to have difficulty in walking or in sitting, or you see that child refuses to change, you know, in front of other children, like maybe there is an event and you have a particular place for girls to change, and you see that child in the midst of other girls, the child, you know, finds it very uncomfortable, refuses. In fact, the child will just automatically switch off, refuse to change in the presence of children of her age. Then you need to watch out. Something is going on. You need to probe further to know whether an abuse is in line, or when a child begins to, you know, be so too conscious of himself or of herself, over grooming, you know, begins to be too self-aware of himself or herself. Yes, we know that we teach children proper hygiene, but when a child begins to do it excessively, when a child begins to become, you know, so much attached to grooming, is so conscious of his body, not keeping up with other children, you know, he's just so conscious. There are two ways: when the child is overdoing it, or when a child is beginning to go down. Your child that you know before, that used to be, you know, conscious, that is very good with proper hygiene, suddenly begins to reject his or her own body. So these are two ways you can do that. Or when you bring up, a sexual talk, like I do sexual talk with my children, and you see a child is, wants to avoid conversation that has to do with sexuality. It doesn't want any conversation that has to do with sexuality. Watch it. That child, they've started abusing that child sexually. Or you see a child, demonstrating what I could call excessive knowledge, sexual knowledge or behavior, curiosity. Something is happening. We need to watch out. Something is happening. So we don't need to allow it to get to that extent where a child contracts vulnerable disease, or where a child, begins to have medical complaints like, having an infection, like UTI infection. We don't need to allow it to get to that point. But when we see some of these signs, we should be able to know that, oh, something is really going on. I need to watch out. I need to engage my child in discussion. Children really find it difficult to talk to adults. I'm telling you about abuse. When a child is being abused, they find it difficult to talk. Sometimes it's because, they could be afraid, or the person that is abusing them is someone that is very close to them, someone that they love, and they are afraid of losing a relationship. They are afraid of bringing chaos in the family if it is something that has to do with a family member. So they could be scared. It could be an uncertainty. So sometimes they may even share the information in bits. They share it in bits. They wouldn't want to share it in whole. It could take a longer time. It could take hours. It could take even years before a child could be able to disclose that, oh, I am undergoing abuse. So we need to be very sensitive. We need to be very alert as caregivers, so that we can tell through their behavior, because children express themselves more through behavior than even the words. You'll be surprised that a child that is sexually abused might even want to change the story. The child that has already told you that he's been abused, but when an issue comes up, you see that the child might even want to deny that there was an abuse. He might want to deny it. So we need to really develop an understanding of some of these signs that will help us identify children who had been experiencing abuse. Okay? When a child becomes very aggressive, suddenly there is a drastic change. There is, it could even affect their appetite. A child loses appetite. A child suddenly begins to be isolated. He just likes to be alone. The child could even develop stubbornness. Some of these are signs. So we need to watch out what is happening and how we can prevent it and how we can stop it. Because if we allow it, the truth is the consequences of child abuse cannot be overemphasized. It can result to physical and psychological developmental delays, just like I mentioned before, developmental milestones of children. So you can imagine when a mother that neglects a child, is not feeding the child properly, malnutrition could affect the child's brain development. It could slow the brain development, I am telling you. So you see, at the same time too, an emotionally abused child could also have difficulties in forming relationship when he becomes an adult, because he will not be able to have a trusting relationship because of emotional abuse. So we need to understand the consequences of some of this abuse. Now, how can we prevent this? I'm trying to rush, please. How can we prevent this? We need to expose the children to their rights. We need to expose them to their rights. Child's Rights Act. Even in the family, there should be family values. You need to let your children know their rights. They should be able to know, and you make it obvious. Like if you come to my house, I have family values. It's printed. It's very obvious. My children know it. Every guest room, you see it in all my guest rooms. It's printed, it's laminated. So you know what is obtainable in this house. If you're a visitor, you're coming in, no matter whether you're a family member, there is a boundary. So you know what happens. I am doing it is a preventive measure that I'm using. So I don't need to wait until my child is abused. Because, just like they said, that prevention is better than cure. So it is better to prevent it now and not to begin to look for remedy. because remedy really takes time. It takes time. You know, it's easier to destroy than to build. So please, I would like to encourage us, let's prevent it. Let's get the Child Rights Act. We have the Child Rights Act in 2003. We can Google it and get some of those acts right, so that the children will be exposed to their rights, even make the rights known to the caregivers around them, whether you have a nanny, whether you are working in a school, or you are a school owner, or you are working in children's department, or you have a church. You know, the child's rights should be made open to everyone that is involved. Now, you as a parent, you need to get involved in your children's activities. Don't just leave everything. Don't leave everything to the house help. Don't leave everything to the caregivers. Get involved, supervise. You don't know, some children come to school, and I tell you, by the time I see the
Okay.
kind of food they come with, that a parent doesn't even know the food that the child came to school with, because everything was handed over to the house help. And before you know it, that child will be abused and you wouldn't know. So we need to get involved in our children's activity. There should be an open communication, so that your child could be able to build confidence. Your child could be able to build trust in you. We'll be able to open up, so that, because these people, you see, these perpetrators, they are around us. They are within us. They are in the home. They are not far. They are family people. They are people that come in contact with your home. They are people that your children are comfortable around them. They are people that your children don't see as strangers. So we need to develop good communication with children. We also need to go for parental support group, just like what you are doing in this parenting group. Parents, we need to reach as many parents as possible. They need to belong to this group where they will be equipped. They will be getting knowledge, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. We need to get equipped with parenting coping skills, because gone are those days. The children we are grooming now, they are 21st century children. It's not the way we were trained. So gone are those days that we want to use the method of how we were trained to train our children. Because abuse is in a cycle. It's a cycle thing. You pass it to your children pass it to their children, and it becomes a generational thing. So it needs to stop from us.
Please, you need to round off now so we can accommodate questions.
Yeah. Okay. I think I need to end here. So I want to go back to my stop sharing screen, because I want to see my face. I don't like to talk without people seeing my face.
Okay, so, don't worry. We had people join us when you were talking, and it's a good thing I didn't do your introductory video. So before we take questions, so let's do an introductory video and get to show people who you are, basically, because when you started, a lot of people were not on the course. So I'm going to start sharing my screen and get to introduce you properly, and then we take questions, because I'm sure a lot of us have questions for you. Okay. So,
all right. Yeah.
Okay.
Taking us on the topic, understanding abuse, prevention and remedies, is a child sexual education advocate, marriage mentor, relationship and personal development coach, public speaker, author, educational consultant, business brand image polisher, founder, Smartville International School, Smartville Kids Club, Smartville Consult, Smartville Teachers and Leaders Academy. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Favor Ebere Neji.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So we've you all just heard who talked to us right now, and she talked about child abuse, and we actually heard all she said. So please, the floor is open for questions. If you have any questions for her, please do well to unmute yourself, because our number is controllable. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay. So I will start because I have a question for you. Because when you were talking about different types of abuse, how smacking a child is an abuse, and all of that. And then you talked about failing to protect your child. And I'm like, okay, so how would someone actually protect a child? I know protection, in terms of doing what you have to do. What about protection in terms of avoiding some certain things, being careful and all? What about when you have to actually instill some discipline? And we are from African descent, and you know how they say spare the rod for the child. So I feel like there's a thin line between discipline and abuse. So where can we draw the line as regards to discipline and actually abusing? Because I was beaten. I don't know, was I abused? I don't know.
Okay. Actually, there is a thin line. There is a difference between discipline and abuse. Because of the way we were brought up. Because even personally, if you look at the picture I shared on my screen, you see a child with belts. I personally, in fact, I experienced belt flogging by my father. So but then they were thinking that was discipline. The truth is that it's not discipline, it's an abuse. When you are flogging a child, when you allow your emotions to play in the way, it's abuse. But when you make a child understand the consequences of his action, the first thing is, are there rules? Because first of all, you need to discuss rules. The child should be able to predict you. The child should be able to know, oh, this is what my family values, is about. This is what is obtainable. Just like when you walk into an organization, there are visions, there are core values, there are rules, code of conduct, and the rest of it. So the child should be able to know that, oh, this is the code of conduct in my house. This is the values in my house. And when I go against this value, this is the consequence. Or these are the consequences. But then when a child doesn't know anything about the values, a child doesn't know what he or she will do, and it goes against what you as a parent think, because it is actually what we think is right that we are trying to impose on the children without getting the children involved in the conversation, in the decision. Remember that this is 21st century. We are talking about digital children right now. So it gets to a point, the child gets disconnected with you. So the thin line here is, when you punish a child, what kind of punishment are you giving the child? Is it a punishment that will make a child to be sober, to reflect? Because we are trying to groom reflective children that are able to sit down and have a rethink of the effect of their attitude on others. So the child should be empathic. The child should be able to know, oh, this thing I am doing is affecting this person. Now, if that discipline is not going towards that line, it is an abuse. You are just flogging, you are hitting, you are screaming, you are yelling. I think, you child, why did you do that? Why did you say that? And you are hitting. You've not disciplined the child. You end up making that child to be scared of you. The child is afraid. But when that child leaves that environment where you are not there, the child becomes something else. But when we imbibe connection with the children, when we make the children understand the consequences of their action on others, because whatever we do affects people around us, that's the truth. So if we groom children to know, you see, this thing you're doing, this is what you're going to, I'm using myself as an example. I have been involved in this physical abuse before, my children, and it didn't yield any results. I have two teenage children. 2 teenage boys. By the grace of God, I'm a mother of 4 boys, and 2 of them are already teenagers. Do you know what? My first son, what I noticed, because of the way I started before I got exposed to parenting coping skills, that I used the way I was groomed to groom him. I started seeing aggressive, attitude in him. He doesn't get anything out of aggression. If he wants to tell you, remove this thing, say, come on, remove this thing. If he wants to tell you, tell the younger ones, will you clear this? Just remove this plate and keep it there. Come on, clear this table before I hit you now. So that is what we end up doing. But when we set rules and a child flash the rules and you bring the child to you and you sit the child down and you begin to talk to the child. See, this method has really helped me. It has worked for me and it's still working for me. The children, they are sober. They already know when they have gone against the rule. So, but you see, when you now deliberately inflict pain, inflict injury on a child just because you want to correct a child, it's an abuse. It's an abuse.
Okay, so how do you think this? Okay, you are talking about you discipline your children by talking to them, getting them to understand the core value. What about when they go out there in the school and their school system is hitting them? Don't you think there is a conflict of
that is why we are taking it into the school system, because now corporal punishment is not allowed in the school. Now, have you imagined a teacher flogging a child and the child slumps and dies? What are you going to say? It doesn't even change anything. Okay, now all the flogging we have been giving children, why haven't they changed? Why are they still doing the things that they are doing despite the flogging? So we are reforming the school system. We are taking it into the school system. Corporal punishment does not work. It's an abuse. We should stop inflicting pains on the children and engage more in dialogue. We should teach children life skills. Let them know life skills. Let them understand the consequences of their actions, both now and tomorrow. So they can take decisions. They can have a self-decision-making skills. Okay. But you may think that as you're talking is not working. See, just give it time, is working. I am telling you from experience, it works. So the school system actually needs to be reformed. We are taking it. That is why we are in this business. We are going around schools. We are talking to school owners. We are talking to teachers. Do away with corporal punishment. Connect emotionally with children. When you connect emotionally with a child, that child will not want to do something that will hurt your feelings. That's the truth. I have heard a child. Let me tell you, I came to a school and in my interaction, it was girls' child's day. And I was talking with the girls. One of the girls met me and said that, in fact, she's always happy when her mother is sick. That she wishes her mother is always sick. Because anytime she's sick, she doesn't beat them. I say, why? Why did you say that? How does she beat? And by the time the child begins to narrate how the mother beats her and her siblings, in fact, I went extra mile to get the contact of the mother through the school head. And I put a call across to the mother. I had to organize a meeting with the mother. And actually, that child, you can imagine a girl child. Hello?
Yeah, continue.
Okay, so you can imagine a girl child that is supposed to have a close relationship with the mother is already disconnected at the age of 8. This thing I'm telling you is an 8-year-old child that is saying that. So you see, physical punishment, corporal, especially when it is deliberately to inflict pain on children, it doesn't yield discipline. There are disciplinary strategies that I wish we will have a parenting session too, for me to talk more about lots of disciplinary strategies that we can use to bring these children. Yelling doesn't work. Connect emotionally with your children.
Okay, connect emotionally with your children. So do we have any other questions for our speaker? Do you have any questions? Is there somewhere you want her to throw more light on? Is there something you're finding, not convincing? You can drop in the chat if you don't feel like talking. You can just type it down in the chat. I'll do you the favor of reading it for you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more last question while people, try to type in their questions in the chat. So you talked about abuse, non-contact abuse, and you said when parents change clothes or when adults change clothes in front of young people, it's a non-contact abuse. I'm beginning to wonder at what point, because ordinarily when a mother is breastfeeding a child, obviously is like almost unclad, just the down part. So at what point should the mother start covering up? Because this is something that the child has been eating. So why is it now a non-contact abuse?
Okay, you remember you said he's a child, he's a baby, right? That is a baby. In as much as I also don't advocate mothers breastfeeding their children in the public. But then, you know, as soon as a child from 2 years, I've already started talking to children about sexual, you know, abuse. But then when a child gets to a particular age, a year, 2 years, you don't need to. As an adult, as a mother, you are changing in front of your child. That's not right. It's not good because you think it's you. That child will not stay with you forever. The child will extend it to another adult. That is not just you. So you don't expose yourself. You should be able, you know, we are role models. So we teach children by what they see us do. If you want to teach a child privacy, you start modeling it. You teach a child, oh, it's time, I want to undress. Please, can you give me space to undress? When you are doing that, you are teaching that child privacy. You're letting that child know that when he or she wants to undress, that he or she is entitled to her privacy. She doesn't have to undress in the presence of everyone. So that's what you're doing. So we teach them by modeling what we want them to do. So what you're doing is you're modeling it. So you can't, in front of your 5-year-old child, 6-year-old child, you're undressing just because the child sucked the breast when he was a baby. Remember that the child was a baby when he sucked the breast. So at this point, you don't have to expose your body to the child.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was like...
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies that I joined in a little late. The question is for Ms. Favor, talking about undressing in front of your child. I'd like to be clearer. Is it like a woman, I can't undress in front of my female child? I understand that you're talking about privacy, but then I want to know, because of course we have the same sexual organs. So is it wrong also undressing in front of my female child? I'm not talking about the male child, I'm talking about the female child.
Yes, it's both male and female, because you are not, what you are teaching that child is privacy. Like I said, you are not doing it, everything you are doing is intentional. You are teaching the child, you are role modeling the child. Your daughter, please, sweetheart, I want to undress. Give me space to undress. What you are doing is you're also teaching that child. She's learning. She's learning. So it's not just for male children, it's both male and female.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful session with you. I'm really thrilled. I could allow you go on and on, but we have another speaker, so we have to call her in. Ijoma, I don't know, is the speaker available at the moment? Because I cannot seem to recognize her name. As the speaker, are you available, please?
Yes, she's here, please. Chinomso, Miss
Okay.
Chinomso, okay, Chiku.
Okay, all right. If she's available, let's introduce her while she gets ready to,
Okay,
talk to us.
while we wait for her, I would like to. Okay, continue.
Okay, you'd like to do something while we wait for her? Is that what you're saying?
There is need for me to comment the first
Please
speaker.
make welcome our first speaker for today. She is set to fill us up on the topic, violence against children. She is a writer, communication strategist, and a sexual reproductive health and rights advocate. Ladies and gentlemen, Chinonso Okechukwu.
Okay, so can we have you?
Yes, thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? Good morning once again.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Okay, so let me quickly share my screen, please. 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, so everyone can see my screen, right?
Sure, we can.
Okay, fine. So thank you so much to Ijoma for giving me this opportunity. And this morning I'm speaking on violence against children. I'm sorry I joined in a little late, but I enjoyed Mrs. Favor Neji's session. Yes, so I'm going to throw a little light more on, I know a lot of people talk about sexual abuse, which has taken all over the space. However, I'm going to deviate just a little from sexual abuse and look at other forms of abuse that affects children as well. But then before then, I'm just going to have to run this overview. So yeah, violence against children, it includes all forms of violence against people under 18 years. We're going to call it VAC, V-A-C, and it mainly involves child maltreatment, which could be physical, sexual, emotional, and stems all through neglect. It can occur at both the hands of parents and other authorities. Boys and girls are at the equal risk of physical and emotional abuse, neglect, and girls are even at greater risk of sexual abuse. During the pandemic last year, it really hit us hard. I work with a feminist organization, and to be honest, the statistics of young girls who were sexually abused at the time skyrocketed from 41% as it was then to almost 80%. And this was because a lot of children, especially girls, were now at home with their fathers, with their brothers, with their uncles. And we found out that most of this abuse wasn't even happening from external. It was happening within their homes. We had cases of fathers who raped their daughters, uncles who raped their nieces, brothers who raped their sisters, and the story could go on and on. So as children reach adolescence, peer violence and intimate violence, in addition to child maltreatment, becomes high as well. Now, every child has the right to be protected from all forms of violence. This right is enshrined in the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, 1989. It's a ratified human rights treaty and also a regional instrument. This is also including the African Charter and the Welfare of the Child of 1990. However, VAC has multiplied over time, even with the presence of these regional instruments. The last speaker talked about the Child Rights Act of 2003, but it's so unfortunate that even as at today, we only have 25 states that have domesticated the Child Rights Act, having 11 states in the north which haven't domesticated that Child Rights Act. And this could be traced to religion and the diversities in culture. And as people often talk about abuse of, women and girls, hardly do people talk about children's abuse. We always hear about women abused, girls abused, but in very rare cases do we hear about abuse of children. Now, this is the most important for me, violence against children in the Nigerian context. I just want to clearly state that there is no child who just taps on your door and say, oh, I want to be your child. I want you to be my mommy. No, two persons have sex and then pregnancy occurs. But then we make exceptions for irregular cases. For instance, rape, it wasn't planned. So that's an exemption. However, when it was, two persons who mutually have sex, one thing, definitely there has to be pregnancy, unless of course, the woman is on contraceptives or there's a withdrawal method or there's any form of contraceptive and then pregnancy does not occur. So no child just wants to come to you to be their mommy, except that you agree with somebody to make a baby and then the baby comes to you as their child. Now, we have parents who shoulder home care responsibilities on their children at a very tender age, and that's an abuse. I see girls or children who, once they are done with primary education and they start secondary education, the bulk of the responsibility to fend, yes, and also take care of their younger siblings rests on their shoulders. I'm not going to lie, that is violence on children. That is a form of abuse on children. Emotional abuse, we have verbal aggression. We have parents who maybe are old at work. We have parents who maybe are not economically stable. We have parents, maybe finances are not, coming up as they would want it to, and they transfer the aggression on their child. We have parents who are very manipulating. We have parents who humiliate their children. And what this does is that it diminishes the child's sense of identity and dignity and self-worth. Parents will transfer aggression. It's almost like, the verbal aggression I just talked about on the numbers 3. Parents will transfer aggression for whatever reason it is. Reasons that they are not doing well as a parent. I always say this when I have conversations with friends or if I'm speaking in a public place like this. I will tell parents or I'll tell people that no child is a continuity product for you as a parent. Every child is at liberty to live out their lives to full maximum potential. No child is your gratuity. No child is your pension scheme. No, your child is not that. Yes, children can decide to take care of you as their parents. When you birth a child, you have taken up the responsibility to take them to school, education, feeding. You're going to provide shelter for them. These are the basic responsibilities you should provide your child because you have brought them into the world that they did not ask you to bring them into. Having to manipulate a child and tell the child, I trained you in school. I fed you. I carried you in my womb for 9 years. My mother used to tell me that too. I carried you in my womb for 9 years. I did this for you. That is being manipulated because the child did not ask to be carried in your womb for 9 years. The child did not beg you. If you didn't have sex, the child would not come. That child did not beg to be birthed. So you gave birth to the child, and by giving birth to that child, you have taken up these responsibilities to cater to that child until they are 18 or even until they are able to fend for themselves. Now, we have a lot of parents who neglect the needs of their children. You just allow your children to be. You don't take care of them. In fact, they get to a certain age and you're like, okay, I've done what I'm supposed to do for you. I cannot kill myself for you. I hear a lot of parents say that. I also hear a lot of children who complain about that. Imposed choices. Parents impose their choices on their children. Choices of what your child is going to study in school, choices of what you want your child to become, choices of how you want your child to live. You do not give your children the liberty to be who they want to be, what they want to be, to make mistakes and learn from them. Because as far as I'm concerned, that is part of living. And violence amongst parents. Most parents in front of their children fight, quarrel, abuse each other. This is violence against children. And you know what this does? It turns the mind of the child upside down. Now, this child takes this culture as a norm and goes out to put it out to the society. It becomes a style for them where they are schooling. It becomes a style for them amongst their friends. It becomes a routine. It becomes a normal for them as children, because just like the last speaker said, they are looking up to you as their role model. So yeah, mommy and daddy are always fighting and abusing each other. So I think that's a normal thing. However, there are also other children who this messes up their mental psychic. Like they look at it and they know this is not a normal thing, and it affects their productivity all around. So it just varies in 2 dimensions. One, a child can see it as a way of life and a style and go on with it. However, the other person, sorry, I hope you people are still hearing me.
Oh, we can.
Okay, that's fine. And then the other child sees that, oh, this is not right. Probably in school, he or she must have been taught about abuse, and then comes home to see his or her parents leaving out what the teacher has said isn't right, and it messes them up emotionally, psychologically, and all way around. Now, how VAC affects a child. Exposure to violence against children can harm a child's emotional, psychological, and even physical development. A child can suffer from depression, can suffer from other mental health problems. A child can engage in criminal behavior as adults, unproductive, both academically and otherwise. And a child can also have anxiety syndrome due to violence that can happen anywhere. In fact, I am categorically speaking on violence that emanates from our homes. African parents, I do not want to say that African parents are too extreme, but I feel that's like the right word to say. African parents, only a few of them really do know how to properly raise children, I would say. Because what I see in most homes, which at the end of the day, we blame it on the country, the economy, the society, is parents who are just angry. And because you cannot beat Buhari, who is the only person that we blame everything on, you rest it on your children, who are the only people that you're seeing. You see parents there are parents you see who are disciplining a child, which is what they call it, flogging a child, and you see so much anger and fury in their eyes when they are hitting that child. This is not because of what the child has done. The parent is just upset. And it's so wrong for you to transfer that type of aggression on the child. So preventing violence against children. We have an increased awareness of parents on the dangers of violence against children. So this has to do with, like the last speaker said, I was listening to her introductory audio, yes. So she's got a scheme where they have to tutor teachers and parents, I guess, on how to properly raise children. This is important. If there could be awareness programs, just like we usually have for stakeholders, usually have for parents, usually have for women and girls, on how to curb the menace of sexual abuse against women and girls. If we could have awareness programs for parents on the dangers of violence against children, it's going to go a long way, because I think that most parents do not even know what they're doing. They have learned from their parents on how to raise a child. I mean, my mother learned from her mother that you have to put pepper in a girl's vagina and inside her ear and inside her eyes for you to tell her, oh, what you're doing is wrong, and this is a way of punishing you. So now she does that to me. And if I haven't learned a lot of things, I would take that down to my children. And of course, they learn that that's a mode of punishment and they take it also to their children. So there has to be a lot of unlearning on how to properly raise children. And this can only happen if we have awareness campaigns, just like we put in so much energy on awareness campaigns against sexual, gender-based violence for women and girls. If we can put in as much energy against violence against children, it's going to go a long way. Now, promotion of personal safety amongst children. This is parents and teachers' responsibility. This aligns also with the first one. Invest in child's protection systems to prevent and respond to all forms of violence against children. Now, this is a collective responsibility. The Child Rights Act was passed in 2003. Until now, we only have 25 states. And even in those 25 states, implementation is a problem. Yeah. So you have child protection systems that exist, but they are not being implemented. In fact, I bet that if you ask a lot of people, they do not even know that there's a Child Rights Act. They don't know about it. They've never heard about it. They don't know what is inside the Child Rights Act. Even schools who are busy teaching pupils do not even have a copy of the Child Rights Act. So they don't even know, yes, I'm teaching a child, but what acts protect the child, the rights of the child? They don't know about it. Teachers are at a miss on what the Child Rights Act says. So we are going to invest, we'll have to invest in protection systems, policies, acts, in fact, even having it as a bill to protect the child as well. And aside having a document for this, we're also going to make sure that there's an awareness to say, oh, this document exists, and look forward to having it implemented in all the states in the country. Now, safe environment is also very important. In income and economic strengthening, parents have to make sure that before you get married, as a man and as a woman, I will say this, you need to have something doing, no matter how little it is. No matter how little it is, you need to have something that you are doing. And again, parents are supposed to know how many children they can cater for. You see a family having 6 children, and you are living on an income of 30,000 put together, man and woman, or you're even living in an income of 50,000 put together, man. I do not know how that will work. I mean, life has to be about planning. You have to birth children that you are going to be able to take care of and not transfer an aggression on your economic status on them because they are not the cause of your problem. So I find it very awkward and disgusting when you see families want to have 5 children and they're really poor on income. I mean, you cannot compare how we live now and how our parents lived. Of course, they can have 60 children if they wanted to. A man could marry 100 wives, and there were means of catering to them. You cannot compare the economy at that time to the economy of now. A family who earns 100,000, I bet is even too small to take care of 2 children because schools, good schools are expensive. Welfare is their expense. Taking care of a home is expensive. So if you do not put your income and your finances into place before bringing children into the world, you will end up not taking care of them properly. So we also have parent and caregiver support. Now, for parent and caregiver support, it aligns also with promotion of personal safety amongst children, which is a parents and teachers' responsibility. But it goes down to say that parents and caregivers of children also need the support that they can get, no matter how little it is. And this also includes encouraging them. And just like we talked about the Child Rights Act, if there's a way that you can maybe speak to schools to say, oh, there's an act like this that exists, and I could make free copies to send across to you so that you know what's happening in the country and how to better protect the rights and of children, it's going to go a long way. So I'm sorry, that's all I have for this session on violence against children. However, I'm open to questions and anyone can draw my attention to whatever they feel that I've missed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We actually had a very interesting session with you. Like, I'm thrilled with all the knowledge you were just dishing out for free. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So please, do we have questions for her? Is there something she said that you need more clarifications on, or something that you want to shed more light on? Yeah. Either you want to ask questions or you want to add to something that she has mentioned, something like that. So do we have anybody? Please feel free to drop your question in the chat if you can't, talk where you are, or if you can't, Okay, so we have someone. Mustafa, please, the floor is yours.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can.
My question is, you talked about parents having more children.
Yes.
Now, they have gotten those children. How they now manage the situation based
Okay, if I get you correctly,
on what we have on ground schools. Hello?
Mustafa,
Can you say what you said again?
Yeah.
I said, now that you talked about parents having more children, like 5, 6, 7. Okay, the situation now is that they have gotten those children. Based on the present situation, how do we go about managing the children? And
Managing the children.
And the finances that comes in.
Okay,
Are you with-
Mustafa, thank you so much. I heard the question. I will answer based on what you said. Now, if you understand, I put up that on preventing violence against children. So to prevent it.
I've not finished my question, so I've not finished my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This issue, looking at the present situation,
Yes.
we as school manager, we are faced with challenges of parents that are having more children in school, like having about the 6 children, not having more than age difference of 1.5, 2 years and so on. About 3, 4 of them might be in the same school with you.
Yeah.
What do we do towards helping those parents in the area of managing their financial situations so that these children will not drop out of schools? I'm thinking of solutions to such issues, not just saying, okay, don't have, now they have got it. What is the next solution for them to be able to move ahead so that we don't have dropout children from such families? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mustafa. And I'm going to be very realistic as possible. Now, you are a school manager in a private school, I suppose, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. And as much as you are giving service, you are teaching children so that they become better persons in future. This is your service to humanity as well, being a good teacher and tutoring children and taking care of them, also filling in where their parents are unavailable. You also need funds to take care of your school and run the school to be up to standard, right?
Yes.
In a case where you have this situation, only a few things can be done, and I will state it clearly. The parents can only afford to put 1 or 2 in that school because as much as you want to help the parents, you also do not want your school to run down.
Sure.
Good. So if a family has 5 children and they put the whole 5 children in your school and they are unable to afford for the whole 5 children, you should have a clear conversation with them and tell them, if it is just for 2 children that you can afford for this school, we will accept the 2 children. That is the most that you can do. However, your remaining 3 children, you should look for probably maybe public schools or schools who are paying lesser school tuition fees and fix them there. Okay. There is no painting about this because, Mr. Mustafa, you need the money to keep the school to the standard where people will come and say, oh, this school is really applaudable and I would want to put my child in this school. Without funds, it would not function. And you're not running charity. So this is just a clear play out of the card. A family has 5 children and they can only afford 2 children in your school. Beautiful. The remaining 3 children, advise them, if you have an advisor in your school, to take them to public schools or schools that, pay lower tuition, because I do not know the capacity of your school. However, there's a school close to where I stay. This is what they do. They have this agreement with the parents to pay a percentage of the school fees every month from their salary. And this is an agreement with where the parents are working. So they go to the office of where the parents work and say, this parent has a child in my school. However, we want to deduct this amount of money from their salary for the school fees. So the parent has no right over that amount of money when it comes. Before it comes, the organization where the parent is working takes that amount of money off and sends it to the school for a particular amount for the child's school fees. So this is also how they run it. So that's another way you can have your money back, because of course there are so many problems in the world. Parents can come and tell you, oh, I will pay at the end of the month, just give me till the end of the month. And before the end of the month, there's something that's going to take the money. So we all have to be clear on how this works. So for me, if I am a school manager or if I am a proprietress, I am just going to say, you cannot put 5 of your children here because first, I want to give the best to your children and other children who are in the school, and I need funds to do this. However, I am going to advise that if you have 2 children that you can comfortably pay for in my school, I will accept them while you look for where you can put the remaining 3.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Your explanation is very, very explicit, and I think I love it. And I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right now, I feel like running a school. Oh my God, is it that easy? Okay, so we have Favor. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. I just want to add to what the last speaker explained. Thank you very much for that session. In addition to your explanation to Mr. Mustafa, I want to talk from the aspect of a school owner. Because of the emotional intelligence of some persons, they are not emotionally stable to accept some truths. The fact is that it's truth, they live in denial, and they don't want to accept it. But then to also help them to protect their self-esteem, when they come for admission, what I also advise is you first of all at least give out your bill. Let the parents know these 6 children, this is what it's going to be. If the school has a discount for any number of children, you also let them know what the discount is. But at that point, when you engage them in discussion and you notice that these people are going to struggle in payment, I think that is the point you can now tell them, okay, what it means is that I'm going to take 3. If you want me to give you my advice, my professional advice is I will take 3, but you can take the 2 or the remaining 3 to another school that you can afford. But that conversation only comes based on your interaction with the parents. I think that's my little contribution there.
You're welcome. Thank you. I love that too.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome. I love that too. I appreciate your thoughts. No, we're not
Thank
having
you.
many participants on this program. Why is it so?
That question is a big question that, I mean, it might, I don't know if I should say it. Anyway, we have a second session coming up in the evening. So you can join us by 4 p.m. Hopefully we'll have more session. One thing is to actually talk about the program and do as much publicity as you want to. Another thing is for people to actually come on the call and join the program. But we are running live streams on YouTube and Facebook. Hopefully people are watching on YouTube and Facebook and they can watch it later anytime. So far as you refer the video to them, they will always see the video and watch it later. Thank you so much, sir.
Linda, you shouldn't bother about people who join in or not.
The school owners should. I'm sorry. I said this program is such a program, very fantastic, that I expect more school owners, especially in Lagos, should join and be part of it. It should not just go like that. That's my view.
Thank you. Thank you. So,
Recommendations.
yeah, Ijoma, any
Yes.
word to add?
All right. I feel so excited, honestly. First, the first speaker did a very good job, and I was still dancing around, and then the second speaker came online, and she just gave it to us as hot as it is. So I want to appreciate the two speakers. They have been wonderful. And Mr. Mustafa just said it all, that the program is too good. It's too good for us to have few participants online. I understand. It's a busy period. Everyone have 1 or 2 events and engagements. So it is always like that. And thanks to technology, we are streaming live such that they can still come up, watch what we have done so far and make their inputs. All right. So the program is not just going, it is something that is there, and they can always come online and see what we have done so far. So I want to appreciate the 2 speakers. I've been noting lots of questions. I've asked, what do you do to an aggressive child? And Mommy Favor will say something about that, but as a teacher, I would love her to touch that again, Because of a truth, I have a candidate like that in my class. When a child is aggressive, and then this issue of Z word, honestly, that is why I had to fix myself somewhere that I'll be coming in the evening session. Let's look at it from the teacher's perspective. On my own part, I've been doing this and try to encourage parents that this shouldn't be. You don't watch Z word with this kids. And when they, do you know how to find out when they're watching Z word? They are always lost in class.
Even
You're
Telemundo.
teaching, yeah, Z word Telemundo. And you can imagine how deep the love scenarios are in these movies. And these kids, they now have this urge to practice what they have been saying. And when there is no means to practice, it is way too worse than when it has been practiced, though, because they are lost. Imagine when you're teaching and you ask a child 2 plus 2 and they're staring at you. It's not like this child is dull, but that child has been long gone. And you're just talking to someone that is not there at all. The spirit is not there. So these are things that you see, you find out that there is a big question mark somewhere. I have these other candidates in my class, but I had to bring the mom closer. What is happening? This is what your girl is always lost in thoughts. Before I told her why I have been asking those questions, I kept interrogating, who do you live with? Do you have any cousin, nephew, niece that you stay with? Eventually, it's just her and the girl. And I've been wondering, where is this gap all coming from? Because definitely there is something wrong somewhere. Because this is a grown-up that is always lost. So these are things that parents and teachers should be working out. And that is why we have to work together. That is why this event is going on. Child protection is not just the parents, and it's not something that only teachers should do. When we work hand in hand, parents, there are information you pass down to your child's teacher. This is what I noticed at home. And then as teachers too, what we notice in class, we hand it over to you. Mommy, daddy, this is what we see in the classroom. And together we'll be able to help protect that child. Hence, the need of what we are doing now. But it's a pity that people still don't value the program anyway, because I know that with what we have in mind, the very many in quotes that we are out to help, they are not here and they will not listen to it. Protecting your child is not buying expensive clothes and wares for your child. This is what this child needs. I came across a parent having all her attention on her girl child. She said she's now giving her child, what is it called? Family planning pills. That is her own understanding of sex education. I screamed. What happens to this girl's sanity? You're not concerned the kind of girl you're bringing out to the society tomorrow. You're not concerned the kind of mindset this child will be having. Is pregnancy the only risk that you see? So this is what we are looking at. Thank you so much for what you have done so far. And I will reconvene again in the evening for the evening session. I will keep doing it. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, madam. Please, I have a question. Please, I have a question.
Okay.
What is the educational importance of Nickelodeon TV? What is the educational importance of that Nickelodeon TV? Because my daughter watches it so much and I cannot see anything. I don't actually understand. And it takes much of their time instead of them watching some other things. Nickelodeon, I don't know. I'm even so disturbed about it. What is the educational importance of that particular TV? Something, please, I need to know.
Okay. Yours is Nickelodeon, okay? So what now happens to those that watch Z1, Mundo, and what have you? And we are still coming, even the Disney Junior that they watch always, PJ Masks, Katarina and all that. Have you ever wondered? See, I now had to sit one day Let me watch this with them. I observe something, repetition. What they watch today is what they will watch tomorrow. In fact, before you know it, towards evening, they will replay it again. Now, you now see yourself limiting your child's, should I say, horizon to a restricted area, you know? It shouldn't be so. And that is where our parents are getting it wrong. In the morning, you're watching PJ Masks. In fact, one said, a relative of mine, in the morning, that the child did not watch PJ Masks last night. Is that he want to watch it this morning before that child gets to school. Imagine the concern of a 21st century parent. Now, when we are looking at inventors we have out there in the outside world, I tell my kids, see, these people you see, they don't have a different brain from what you have there. Africans, we are well bred. God really blessed us. Nigerians, oh, look at what we do outside Nigeria. So at times, I encourage them to emulate them, the way they train their kids, what they expose them to. So if you want your child to be a techie, a guru in the technology field, you start from the scratch. That child does not need PJ Masks morning, afternoon, and night. It's not doctor's prescription. Do you get it? So for me, it's not mandatory. So you as a parent, you have a role to play. Decide for yourself.
Okay, thank you so much. Madam Favor, you have your hands up. I don't know if you still want to say something. You had your hands up.
Yeah, actually what I wanted to say, Ijoma has really explained it, because when he was asking he doesn't know what the Nickelodeon is about. So I wanted to talk about, the parents being in control, in as much as we are, advised to connect emotionally with our children, but you need to assert authority. You don't allow the children override your simplicity. So there should be family values. I keep talking about values. The children should be able to know these are the rules. When it is this time, these are the things you watch in the house, and these are the things you don't watch. Anyone you don't understand, it's advisable you sit down with them and even watch it to understand before you be able to put restriction, on it. That's my little contribution.
Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Ijoma, do you have a closing remark before we call it a wrap on this morning's session? Okay. I don't know if you can, I'm sure everyone can see my screen at the moment. So this has been the 3rd annual International Parenting Seminar, and the theme for this year is Child Protection, a Rewarding Responsibility. And we have 4 lined up speakers, and so far we've heard from 2. So please, I enjoin us all to reconvene using the same link or way you joined. By 4 p.m. We'll be having Niha Misra and Ifechukwu Ewani talking on different topics. Ifechukwu will be talking about child protection, all hands should be on deck, and Niha will be talking about COVID-19, child protection and COVID-19. Thank you all so much for joining, and do not forget that this seminar is organized by Antoscience Consulting Services. And this year, they've been in partnership with Lindaspace Media. And that is how we've been able to stream it on YouTube and on Facebook group. And we actually have many options of streaming it as in so many platforms as we can, but we just decided to stream it on these 2 platforms so far. My name is Linda Umezurike. Thank you all for joining. See you all by 4 p.m.
Thank you.
Have a blessed day. Thank you for the lecture.